we're going to go ahead and get started. I know that some folks have said that they're going to be live on YouTube tonight to watch this. We've had a lot of sickness going around for some reason, and lots of rain. So I'm trying to think of the updates for the program. If you guys haven't heard, we were approved for a full-time behavioral health specialist, so in other words, a counselor, a therapist for our program that will begin to, once they get onboarded, helping out with some of the topics for support group. I really think they're going to be able to bring some more dynamic topics for you guys. But this person would also be available for individualized therapy if somebody is in need of that. So they'll be embedded in our location, in our suite, 260 at Lanier Park. So that's exciting. Very happy to have that. If you guys didn't make it, we did have a very big cooking class last week at Wimberley's Roots over in Winder. We had 43 people attend that night, and we are working right now on adjusting a little bit that video just so that you don't have to see us setting up and stuff. But once we get that video edited, then we will upload that. Chef Juan, as always, did a great job. He did salmon with a cauliflower puree and chard. Is that how you say it?
Oh my gosh.
Don't worry about it. And then he did kind of, I'm going to call it a dessert because it was like a dessert, but it was healthy. And it was like an apple sundae with
a coconut cream, whipped cream, and balsamic.
Which, by the way, did not taste like coconut. I don't like coconut, but I liked it.
Yeah, and a balsamic glaze.
Yeah.
It was really good.
The patient celebration. The patient celebration event is coming fast and furious, so my team is working really hard to finish up some final details of that. I'm happy to say that we are actually full at 150, and so it will be a big event. Right now we have a waiting list, so if anybody wanted to come and they just haven't reached out yet, I have started a waiting list, and we will put some things on Facebook if anybody has decided that they've had a change of plans and they're not going to come, so that we can accommodate maybe some others on the waiting list. So exciting times. All right, well, I'm going to let you go ahead and get started.
Okay, so today we're going to make a recipe with the Instant Pot. The Instant Pot, at least based on my experience, I felt like it was an intimidating cooking utensil. I feel it was just not knowing how to use it, and because you've heard horror stories of pressure cookers and how the lid just explodes, well, this has a lot of safety features to really avoid that happens. So even if you do make a mistake and you're gonna open it when it's not time to open, it won't let you. So it's got good safety features to prevent something like that happening. The really cool thing about the Instant Pot that I've learned is that it replaces a lot of your cooking utensils. So on this thing, you can saute before actually doing the pressure cooking. So instead of having to saute on a pan, you just saute here right in the Instant Pot, which is what we're gonna do in a second. I just hit the saute button, I plugged it in, and I hit the saute button. Is heating up, coming up to temp, and once it gets hot, it'll let me know, and then it will only be on for 30 minutes. So another safety feature. So if you hit the saute button and you forget about it, it won't stay on forever. So it'll turn off in around 30 minutes. So that's really cool. Now, pressure cooking is a way to cook things a lot faster, and it helps get flavors become a lot more concentrated quickly. So something where, like for example, like a soup with thick cuts of meat that you would take a very long time in a slow cooker or in a pot, cooking, the pressure cooker will greatly shorten the amount of time it takes to cook the meal because it uses pressure to get into the protein, cook it faster, and tenderize it faster. So let's go ahead and get started with the recipe. I'll talk more about the Instant Pot as I go. And if you have any questions, let me know. Okay? So this has it says hot, so it didn't make a noise, but it's hot. So I'm gonna go ahead and add the olive oil first. I've already diced some bell peppers and onions, so I have all that ready in here. When you're cooking, having all your ingredients laid out just like I did, you don't have to have them in individual vessels, of course, because that's just journeying a lot more things. Obviously, the reason why I do that is because I want this to be presentable, but at home you can kind of keep the cans open, have your beans rinsed, have your bell peppers diced, have your chicken out of the package, laid out, ready to go. It's okay if it stays on the counter for a few minutes while you're cooking. It's not going to cause any bacteria to grow in it. And once you have everything ready, it's so much easier to follow the recipe. So that's a tip that I would always recommend that you follow. So I put that in there, and we're gonna, what we want, and you can see in the video, let me push this. What we want is the bell peppers and the onion to soften up. So that's gonna take about 5 minutes. I am stirring it because I want the olive oil to coat the peppers and the onions very, very well. And once I know it's all coated very well, I'm just gonna tap them to kind of spread them around evenly. And I'm just gonna let that alone for a couple of minutes, and then I'll stir it again until about 5 minutes. That's when it'll be done. Okay? For in the Instant Pot, if you're gonna make, for example, double a recipe, this recipe makes a lot, so I wouldn't expect you to make double this, but if you were gonna make something that only serves 4, let's say, and you wanna double it up and serve 8, just because you have family members or friends coming over, the amount of time, the timer that you're gonna put will most often stay exactly the same. So if I were to double this recipe and put twice the amount of ingredients in here, still I would put the timer at 7 minutes and it'll be done. And it will come out exactly the same way. So I'm gonna explain to you, there is an exception. So you can see this is not in the recipe card, so you may want to make a note of this. I took the chicken breast and I cut them in about even pieces, all right? Because when I made this recipe for the first time, I threw in big chicken breast, and the chicken was a little bit tough. And I thought to myself, I wonder what it was, because pressure cooking, one of the things it does is tenderize. But then I took another bite of the soup, and some pieces of the chicken were very tender. So I'm like, how come one bite is tough and one bite is tender? And then I remember that I put one whole chicken breast and then the other one was cut in half, so it was a smaller piece. So when you have a thick piece of meat, that's gonna take longer time cooking. So let's say if you're making something like a beef roast and you have a pound of beef in there, the recipe says set the timer for, I don't know, 15 minutes. If you're gonna make 2 pounds, so it's the same, it's 1 piece of meat, but now it's 2 pounds of beef, you're gonna have to increase the time because it's gonna take longer for that pressure to reach all the way to the center, cook it, and tenderize it. So that's the difference. But in this case, if you're just doubling up and nothing is different when it comes to thickness, then it's exactly the same cooking time. And I thought that was so cool. So really cool fact about the Instant Pot. This thing, and I cannot wait to do it, and I'm absolutely gonna do it and show you guys here in a cooking class. You can make yogurt here. Isn't that cool? It even has a yogurt button. Just yogurt. Please and thank you. I'm pretty sure it's more difficult than that, but there has to be some other steps to it, but I'll show you guys. But isn't that so cool? Isn't yogurt so expensive? In my opinion, I feel it's one of those higher priced, if you're going for the really like famous brands, super gourmet, high quality yogurt, you're gonna pay a little bit more than the like store brand, for example. So you could save a lot of money making yogurt here in the Instant Pot. I'm probably gonna get myself one. Every time we use a new cooking utensil, I'm like, I need to get one. Okay, so this has cooked for a few minutes, and the next step is to add the garlic that I minced already. And I already mixed the seasonings, so we've got cumin, oregano, and chili powder all mixed in here. So So I'm gonna dust this right on top. Give it a stir. Now I'm gonna season the chicken while this keeps cooking. So stir it, tap it, distribute evenly. Okay. So like I said, I took the chicken breast and I cut it, vertical, lengthwise that ways, and then cut it in half again. The smaller pieces tenderize much better. So I'm gonna grab, this is to taste. So you do it at, based on your liking. So I'm gonna sprinkle some kosher salt here on top. And some black pepper. This is optional, and you put as much pepper as you like. Again, salt. I like the kosher salt better because I can grab it more easily. I feel like I season my meats better when I have a good grip of the salt. It's just larger size kernels of salt. There's no difference in sodium content. It's the preferred salt choice for most chefs out there because it's just you can grab it easily. Okay, so that's that. I'm gonna give the peppers another stir real quick. And it's browning like in the bottom. You may not be able to see it, but all that browning in the bottom adds flavor. So this sauteing method does really work. Because I thought when I tried it the first time, I'm like, all right, there's a saute button, but is it really gonna brown my veggies? Which, if you've been to my cooking classes before, I always talk about how color adds flavor. So, but it does. Of course, if it's a lot of peppers and onions, like way too much, then it's not gonna brown. So now that that's cooked, I'm going to add the chicken and every other ingredient. How easy, right? The other ingredients are chicken stock, of course chicken. I've got some frozen corn. The reason I like the frozen corn is because when it's cooked, it still holds a good texture compared to like canned corn. The recipe doesn't say fire roasted, but really you can use whatever type of diced tomatoes you like. So fire roasted, some people like the rotel, so you choose whatever your preference is. You just want to make sure that you have some diced canned tomatoes. I like the fire roasted because it adds a little bit of smokiness, and I think it's good. So black beans, very well rinsed and drained, so you get most of that salt. And I bought lower sodium beans. Corn. And then chicken stock. So all of that right on top. Oh, I'm glad I remembered. Scratch the additional 1 cup of water. Just do 4 cups of the chicken broth. That's plenty. So if you don't have a pen, just make a mental note. Definitely scratch that extra stock. And for those watching us online, I already made the edits in the recipe card, so when I upload them on Facebook, those are going to be good. So I just want to give this a stir, just to blend all those flavors together. And now the lid. This lid is pretty cool. Look, like when you're using it, you can stand it here, which I probably should have done that earlier because I was trying to find a spot because it's so big. But you can put it in either side, so it kind of hooks on the handles. The lid, oh, cool. As you can see, the lid has two knobs. It's got this knob, which is loose. It may come in your box separate and you have to push it in, but it fits in loosely. So I thought, this is totally wrong. I kept reading the instructions, but it said it fits loosely. I'm like, okay, so that's fine. When you're pressure cooking, you want to make sure that it's on sealing, not venting, because venting, what it'll do is the steam will come out of the Instant Pot and it's not going to pressurize. So you want that right on sealing, and then this little red knob, as the pressure increases, it's going to go up. All right. So I'm gonna put this here. I love the noises that it makes. I feel like I have a little robot with me. There you go. Make sure it's on sealing, and I'm gonna have to go around. It says on. So you want to hit cancel because it was on saute, and now you hit soup, and the timer to 7 minutes. So it's already at 7 because I had made this recipe before. So that's ready to go. You don't have to click OK. See, it says on. So it takes like 3 seconds to kind of register what the setting that you chose, and it's not going to count down the 7 minutes until it gets to the right pressure point. So it's going to increase the pressure inside, and then it's going to start the countdown. Depending on how much food volume you have is how long it's going to take to get to that exact pressure point. So this recipe filled up about half, so this is going to take between 10 and 15 minutes to get to the pressure point. If you have more than half, it may take more like 20 minutes to get to that pressure point. But again, then you just have to wait 7 minutes for it to cook. I mean, it's really quick. Then, after the countdown finishes, this is gonna go into a warm setting where it keeps it warm. But the pressure hasn't released. The pressure is still in there. And again, this has the safety feature where it won't let you open it because it knows that all the pressure is still in there. You're not gonna touch it. You're just gonna wait until this knob comes back to the level point. Like I said earlier, this little red knob will go up, up, up as the pressure increases. After the countdown is done, you just let it be, you don't touch it. That's what's called natural release. So it'll naturally release steam very slowly that you can't even hear it or see it, but it's releasing pressure. And that knob will go like bloop after a few minutes. And that's when you know that it's good to go, and you open the lid and you're ready to eat your soup. Okay? Isn't it cool? Mm-hmm. I feel like once you, oh yeah.
What brand is that?
Instant Pot. Instant Pot, Instant Pot.
Don't some of them have more features and make more things than others?
Yeah. So this is the newest one. Newest version. This is an 8-quart, so this is really big. I mean, I bought this for me. I didn't buy it at the hospital. I bought it for purpose of the class, so I bought the biggest. We bought the biggest one, but you can get a smaller one. There's like a 6-quart, and the oldest one doesn't have the yogurt setting, so you want to get the new one if you want to make yogurt. Yes. Based on, I haven't played that much with it yet. I'm going to continue playing with it so I can keep bringing you guys some Instant Pot recipes, so you might want to put it on your Christmas list for next year. Based on what I've seen, you can find a lot of YouTube videos that people post. There's a whole community out there when it comes to the Instant Pot. A bunch of people that's all they do. I mean, I'm saying that's all they do because they post a video every day. I'm like, really, that's all you do? And they teach you recipes, they teach you how to use the different features, but a lot of them say that all they do is the manual feature, so they choose their own pressure level, because I didn't show you that, but you can choose like a lower pressure, or you can use a high pressure. The high pressure is something that you want to use definitely when you have things like meats, because you want those to tenderize. You can cook steamed vegetables in here too. And I saw a lady doing it in a video. All she did was add a cup of water in the bottom of the pan. She put this basket, because the Instant Pot comes with this steamer basket, and then she threw the vegetables on top. Oh, and it comes with a rice spoon and a soup spoon. And she put the timer for a minute. So all she had to wait was for the pressure cooker to get to the pressure point, and then the countdown was just 1 minute. And because when you're doing steamed vegetables, you're not filling up the entire pot. It released the pressure really quickly. There are some recipes where you don't use the natural release feature. What you do is you release the steam on your own. So what you would do is once the countdown is done and it's in the warm setting, then you would push this knob to the venting. But you don't want to, you know what I just did? This, you don't want to do that when you're about to push to the venting, because the steam will just whoosh, and that's not a burn that you want right here. So I highly advise that if you follow a recipe that asks you to move it to venting, once it's done, use something to protect your hand from burns, and make sure that you don't have kids around you that may want to be like, what are you doing? Yeah, so that's the only thing where the Instant Pot is not going to protect you from getting burned. So you want to make sure that you're being safe. Okay? Yeah.
If you don't have an Instant Pot and you want to make this, just put it in a pan and go on and cook it just longer than.
Right, what I would
chicken
suggest,
first
do you have a slow cooker?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I would suggest is make the shredded chicken ahead of time. So not, maybe the day before, you put some chicken breast in there and you let it slow cook, you shred it, and then when you're ready to make the soup, then you do want it to cook for longer until the flavors, come together. So I would say you would probably want that to simmer for at least 45 minutes to get all those flavors together, but not more than that. So slow cooker the chicken, shredded. So, I forgot to mention, when this is done, you guys are not going to see that, but what I did was I pulled out the chicken breast pieces with my tongues, and then I shredded it, and then returned it to the pot, mix it really well, and you're done. So I think this is a really easy recipe that tastes good, and the reason why this is a healthier soup compared to others is because I used less of the chicken broth to keep that lower sodium. The reason why it's called chicken tortilla soup is because it's got everything except the tortillas, because the tortillas are, they tend to be high fat unless they're baked tortillas. So I just skipped that ingredient. That's why it's called chicken tortilla soup. Then you can add toppings to it, which we are going to do that for you. Toppings like sour cream, some fresh diced avocados, some cilantro, which actually I'm going to add. Wow, this thing is boiling. Okay. So this is what I made before you guys came here, because I wanted to make sure that we ate on time. So this is already made. The chicken is already shredded in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to serve it. It's very hot, so make sure that you're really careful. Actually, I'm going to move it out from the stove, which is really hot. I'm going to carefully move the pressure cooker this side. Are you? Yeah. The instructions say don't do that. Okay. So I like to add the cilantro right in the end, because if you add the cilantro halfway through the cooking process or even before you close the lid, they're just gonna disappear. I think that when you add them right at the end, you can taste that cilantro flavor a lot more, which in my opinion is very tasty. But if that's not something that you like, then maybe you're better off putting the cilantro before you close the lid. So It does have the flavor, but it's not too strong. So that's there. And then I'm gonna add a little bit more as a garnish. And that's it. Do you have any questions about the recipe that I can answer? Or anyone here has an Instant Pot and has used it? Because some people have Instant Pot, but they haven't used it, so that's why I'm asking. No? No one here has an Instant Pot? Oh, you do? Okay. Do you like it?
I haven't used it much.
Okay.
It's sitting on the top shelf.
Yeah, so I'm gonna bring more recipes so that you can put that to use, because I mean, pressure cooking, it just makes things a lot quicker. And in times like the winter where it's cold and you want
Raining.
something, yeah, raining, and just you want something warm but something nutritious and healthy that you can have. So that's where this type of cooking comes in really handy. 1, 2, 3, 4.
You have used the air fryer and the Instant Pot. Do you recommend one over the other? Do you need both, or would one suffice?
One over the other?
Yeah.
Not necessarily, because they're so different. Because the air fryer is essentially like a mini convection oven on top of your island. But the Instant Pot is wet cooking method where you need liquid. So you're gonna get totally different products and different dishes from the Instant Pot compared to the air fryer. So I would say get both.
I have an air fryer and I've never used it.
Oh, well, and I'm gonna bring more recipes for the air fryer. So
One of my neighbors is like, oh, I heat all my leftovers up in the air fryer. It's so good, it's so fast, and it just, makes them nice and fresh and everything. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I never thought about using them for heating up leftovers.
Yeah.
Once you get that garnish, will you show YouTube and then I'll turn it
oh
on?
yeah, absolutely. So let me make one plate.
It smells really good.
I walked in here, I'm like, you've been cooking already.
Yes. Yep. Okay, so we eat with our eyes, right? That's one of the things. So don't think that food should only look great when you eat it at a restaurant. Like, put time and thought and effort into making your food looking really nice. So the toppings here not only give it flavor, but it also improves the appearance of your soup. So when you have it in front of you, you're like, oh, that's so cute. That looks pretty. So I have light sour cream. And of course you choose the toppings that you like the most. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put a dollop here in the middle. I'm gonna sprinkle this with a little bit more cilantro on top. And then I'm gonna put a few pieces of avocado, which is a very healthy fat. Okay, and then I've got a little lime for the garnish. All right.